Scott, that's just another M4. I don't care what you have to say about it. I don't care about the M-lock rail, and I do not care about the stock. I don't care about the range, because there's nothing special about this rifle. Review more cry. Do people really think like that? Or is that just something that I have in my head that everyone speaks so demeaningly on everything they see? Welcome to the ICS CXP DMR. No wait, the MMR DMR review. This name is ridiculous. For this video, we'll be checking out this rifle's features, range, controls, as if we need to, and we'll see how I'd make this rifle better if I had the chance to. Of course, this video is sponsored by ICS, who sent me this rifle, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be all over ICS's butt and tell you that this gun is perfect. It's an M4 rifle after all, and I've seen many of these, so it's going to have to really impress me to get my good graces. However, if you end up liking this M4 DMR, then go ahead and check out the description for all the links you'll need. And we'll begin the search for performance where we always do, with the unboxing. And look, I didn't cut my chola nails before filming this, just so I could bother some of you overly sensitive people watching. Okay, so this begins with a flashy cardboard box that you can see that ICS is really proud of. ICS logos all over it, like a number all over a whack rapper's body. We have some information here and there, like how this rifle has a MOSFET, but opening the box, we have a bit of paperwork on top. First, we get a small catalog that'll show you a bit of stuff from ICS, from their Yak series, their lovely APE line, all the way to these delicious creatures. Then we have a pretty good manual. This manual will come with a very helpful exploded view of your rifle and its parts, as well as instructions to use each control. There's not much else to say here, but this was a nice touch of quality in the manual that I'd like to see more of. Even better to see is a separate instruction sheet that goes over the USAirsoft stock that comes on the MMR DMR. Under the styrofoam, the rifle can be found, as well as some goodies from ICS like a bag of BBs that are actually alright to use, but won't last you long. Then you get a tool to remove your buffer tube if you need that, which is pretty cool to have, a small baggie of fuses, which is really nice to have, an orange cap at the end of the MMR's barrel, and an enjamming/cleaning rod. After that, you have the MMR DMR rifle to yourself, as well as the box to store wherever you'd want to. I almost forgot about the Polymer high cap magazine. This is pretty standard, apart from the appearances done by ICS. However, the thin windows into the magazine on either side are helpful when determining if you need to reload now, or if you can keep running the same high cap. As for the ICS MMR DMR itself, we have a 38.5 inch, 8.5 pound rifle, thanks to the extended licensed metal M-lock rail that sits behind the plastic orange flash hider that will come on the US models. The flash hider sits on standard 14mm counterclockwise threads on its metal outer barrel that comes in at about 17.5 inches long. This should come in handy later when we test the rifle's range. On the licensed M-lock rail that runs monolithic with the upper receiver, we have a standard Picatinny rail that comes with a pair of plastic sights mounted. These iron sights, despite being made from plastic, are clear when deployed. The right side can be adjusted for windage from side to side with a dial, much like how the front sight post can be adjusted for elevation with its own dial. These click as you adjust them or when you push them up or down. This is all well and good, but there's one thing that confuses me. How do you even attempt to use these backup iron sights that can be found when the main sights are flat? I've seen this before, and I said last time that unless you have no cheekbones or a portion of your eye socket missing, then these are useless. You just can't use them, so why would you even put them there in the first place? I mean, I guess thanks for the option, but I don't shoot my rifles with my chin against the back of the stock, so... Moving along to the rear of the MMR DMR, we have the USAirsoft stock. The stock options will change depending on what version of the MMR you order, but for the DMR, you'll get this larger stock that bears a bit of adjustment with these two dials. These control how far the butt pad can extend and how far your cheek riser can elevate. This can be handy for larger players or players running tall mounts for their optics. This stock is also where all the sling points can be located, with QD sling points on each side, a single loop underneath, and a thick metal point in between the buffer tube and receiver area. To get to the battery connections, I'd advise using a flat object like a flathead screwdriver, a coin, or in my case, a 223 shell to twist this screw. Doing this will free the butt pad portion of the stock to reveal your small type Tamiya connections. Although deep enough to fit a large stick type battery down the buffer tube, I'd say try something like a normal size 7.4 or an 11.1 candy bar size LiPo battery. You don't get much wire from the gun itself to work with, but the battery wires can cause problems if the battery is taking up all the room available in the buffer tube. Battery storage was pretty good for the stock, as long as you use those standard LiPo batteries I mentioned. Putting back on the rubberized butt pad that really sticks to your shoulder when you need it to will now continue on to the receiver area. This is where I feel like a lot more could have been done to make this rifle really stand out. First off, ambidextrous controls can really mean a lot to many people. The extended magazine release on the right side drops magazines out freely, which is good, but another one on the left side would have just made things a little bit better. Enlarging the selector switches and making the bolt release actually function would have also upgraded this rifle. I do, however, greatly appreciate a function that can be found after you fire any MMR rifle and place it on safe afterwards. This series has a spring release function built into the safe selection, which will release the tension on your spring when you're finished firing your MMR. I've always loved this feature and would like to see more companies do this, but this is not really implemented in many airsoft guns and not many companies care to add it in. On a side note, I did notice that using this feature will cause your rifle to double feed, as the piston has to move back again to pull in air, causing an RBB to feed into the hop-up. So if this bothers you, then now you know. The ICS designed textured pistol grip and ambidextrous charging handle are also nice to see for a high-end rifle like this, as well as the large teeth on the rotary hop-up dial. Just remember that you have to hold back the charging handle yourself while you make adjustments. I would have liked to see some type of design done to the trigger or for the dust cover to be tighter, but this is where I'm really nitpicking and showing my opinions. And what I mean by the dust cover being tighter, I noticed if it was closed and I'd shove a magazine in a little rough, it would just pop open. I don't want to sound like I'm really bashing this rifle, as it's very well built and functions well. Maybe I'm just bored of M4s. I've said this many times before to sponsors, but guess what still shows up at my door? I'm happy that I received this rifle, and I'm grateful that I get anything besides a go f yourself sent to me, but if I get an M4 rifle, it better really stand out from what I've seen before. One major thing that can really persuade me, and a lot of other people though, is the split gearbox inside most ICS M4s, and this rifle is no exception. You can do a lot with an ICS split gearbox, either have multiple uppers for one lower, or do upgrades to one upper half of a gearbox for high rates of fire, while another one is set for normal rates of fire. Spring changes are also super easy to do with this design, and I'm sure if I had another upper, then I could probably set up a CQB gun fast. The inclusion of an integrated MOSFET, a high strength polymer piston, a metal hop-up chamber, and a reinforced bevel and pinion gear are also upgrades that were made to this rifle by ICS. Closing the rifle back up, we can now take a look at the Chronograph with a bottle of 0.2 gram BBs to see his rifle shoot at about 430 to 440 feet per second. This is not going to be a good choice for CQB right away because of this and the rifle's length, but thankfully this rifle is not shooting much higher because that would be a little overkill. The rate of fire was also pretty good at 18 to 19 BBs a second with an 11.1 Titan power battery. Then at the range I got easy 150 foot shots with 0.28 gram high power airsoft BBs. I didn't expect anything less from an ICS rifle because ICS guns tend to do rather well at 150 feet to even 200 feet with the right BBs. But knowing that this rifle has electronic blowback does bother me. I've learned from a lot of past experiences that EBB leads to more problems than benefits. However, with just the removal of a screw, I can deactivate this easily. This should jump your rate of fire up slightly and not put added strain onto your piston. So in conclusion, I'd say that the ICS CXP MMR DMR should first get a normal name like Mike or Sarah, and that it's actually a solid rifle with a lot of M-LOK real estate. The MMR series could get a lot better though, with a few changes here and there. Ambidextrous controls can seem a bit overrated, but you'll still hear people appreciate them when they have them on their rifle. A bolt lock would have also been nice to see. I want to see this rifle and any M4 rifle that comes out make other rifles obsolete or have a major advantage over something else, like how the Komodo rifle did due to the electronic diagnostic ability it had, and the ability to change full auto into 3-round bursts whenever I wanted to. This is not a bad rifle though, it just lacks an identity that people will remember. To some people, this is a great contender for their next long-range build that can be changed into a CQB gun with the right upper, but for some others, this rifle is just another M4 in the bottomless sea. Range was great, the FPS readings were consistent, the USAirsoft stock was a great fit on this rifle, and you have a lot of space for accessories and the option to choose a tan model, but is that worth the $420 price tag? If so, then let me know in the comments down below, or if you have another rifle in mind that can do the same job as this ICS CXP MMR DMR, then just comment down below and let me know. Links to where you can find more information about this rifle will be in the description, but I'd like to thank ICS Airsoft for sponsoring this video and everyone who supports these reviews with likes, comments, shares, advice, and everything else in between. But until the next video drops from the city of San Antonio, this has been Scott Holmbeck, and I'll be sure to see you all next time.